The national championship game is set. Washington takes on Michigan. Who will win? Who are the prospects on offense and defense that you need to know about? And who are the X factors? We're going to talk about this and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every single day. Shout out for being our everydayers. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a national scout and a senior draft analyst. And guys, I got to kick this introduction over to my partner, my brother, Keith Sanchez, Mr. LSU himself. You can find and follow him on X at The Talent Code. Keep talk to him, baby.
What's up, Locked On family? This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ with those LSU Bengal Tigers, man. Here to bring you championship level content surrounding the NFL draft 24/7, 365. Listen, man, and what we do over here at the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, we talk everything college football. We talk everything NFL football. And what we like to say, it all starts with the NFL draft. That's rosters, that's draft philosophy. We cover it all over here at the NFL Draft Podcast, man. Listen, I want to tell you real quick, man, go ahead and hit that like button, because I know this is going to be a really good show, man. And then wait to comment, man. You can comment after segment 1, 2, or 3. Drop your comments on there because we will respond. And then if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. But DP, this is where we can start with it, man. We said it's a championship level content. It doesn't get more championship-y, right, than the national championship. And we're covering the national championship, Washington versus Michigan. We're going to start with the offensive prospects to watch. Then we're going to follow that up with the defensive prospects. Then we're going to give you our X factors and the game picks. Yes, all the draft prospects. But DP, before we get started, man, why don't you hit them with our title sponsor?
LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Keith, as we've done the past couple, the first 2 playoff games, we presented and previewed the offensive prospects, right? And Keith, I think we've talked about JJ McCarthy. Yep. And just what you asked me, like, you know, after the Bama game, you said, well, DP, where are you on JJ? How you feeling? I said, well, I'm incomplete. This is the game that's going to make me complete, Keith, because going up against a Washington offense, and not just Washington offense, but one that can put up points in bunches, as we've seen this season, right? Against Oregon the first time, against, Texas this time. JJ McCarthy, Bama had some really bad self-inflicted wounds. Now, Michigan played good defense too, but they couldn't get that passing game going. If Michael Penix goes into Michael Penix mode and he puts up 30 plus, what you did against Bama is not going to cut it offensively. You know what I mean? It's just not that you're waiting for the last drive to really get the offense humming and going, the passing game being inconsistent. No, Keith, there were times in that game. I watched the all 22 I watched the full all 22 after we recorded that episode early this week. And Keith, I think it was like the first or second play from scrimmage. They ran a kind of rub out route, to the sideline outbreaker. JJ's on, and it's a sprint right. And JJ winds up to throw it, Keith. Mind you, the receiver is wide open for a first down. And he double pumps, he clutches. And it's like, JJ, what are you doing, man? So it's like, those are the plays you can't have against Washington, because if you do, and you take your offense off the field and put your defense on the field too many times, Washington's going to put up points. So one of the guys that is so important for this game is Michigan quarterback JJ McCarthy, man. Good size, height, weight, you know what I mean? Athletic. We saw that with the QB counter. They ran against Bama and everything. His legs can be a factor, but he's got to throw the ball well in order to win this game.
Yeah, DP, you go quarterback. I'm going to go with the running back that we talked about earlier this week, right? And that is Blake Corum, man. I think, listen, in order for Michigan to win this game, I believe that they're going to have to score somewhere between 27 and 32 points, right? And that's a testament to this Washington offense. And with that being said, you're talking about JJ McCarthy and the ups and downs, right? That appears to be with this game. Blake Corum, in my opinion, DP, he's going to have to touch the rock for 30 times, and he's going to have to walk away this thing with 150 yards at least rushing the football. He's going to have to dictate pace in this game. So I'm going to go with Blake Corum, DP, but we're about halfway through this segment. I want to transition to Washington side, right? And I want to talk about their quarterback, Michael Penix, DP, because Michael Penix has just skyrocketed, right, through draft boards at the end of the day, right? He's elevated himself so much. And I want to ask you, because he's in your region, right? And you watched him, and he sat there and he kind of went against some, I guess, preconceptions of who he is as a quarterback, right? And I want to pass the rock back to you, and you could talk about Michael Penix and what you expect to see. What have you seen from him in the past, and where do you think he stands now as far as in the draft conversation?
Man, I think where he stands now is that he's still QB4 for me right now, Keith. But I think that the QB3 discussion is still wide open, right?
QB4 and your QB order is Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jay Daniels. Daniels is 3. Okay.
Yeah, 100%. But like I said, it's still that QB3 spot is still open. Michael Penix has NFL size 6'3", 215. I think the thing for me is how he handled pressure during the season, right? And I think after that game, right, you look at his numbers when he was been pressured. Less than 40, around 45% completion, 5 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. His yards per attempt have dropped down, different things like that. So he hasn't been bad against pressure, but he hasn't been great against it either. Now, the play against Byron Murphy, where he's got Byron Murphy beaming down the middle of the line of scrimmage, and he just kind of quickly pivots, evades, and gets the ball out. You didn't see that a whole lot. And everybody compared it to C.J. Stroud and what we saw with C.J. Stroud last year against Georgia. Well, let's pump the brakes on that and let's wait till we see this game, because as much as we felt like Texas's defense was going to be better than Washington's, or we felt like Texas was a more complete team, Michigan has legit talent on all 3 levels. Linebacker,
Yep.
Safeties, corners. They got the 2025 CB1 and Will Johnson right now. I'm stamping it now. He is CB1 for next year. And they have a pass rush. The defensive coordinator mentor, I expect him to do what Texas and a lot of other people have not done yet, and that's flush Michael Penix to his right. This is the resume game for me, Keith, where if he goes up there and drops 40 and he throws for 400 or 500 yards and he showcases consistency in handling the pressure, yes, I think that's where you say, okay, this is the C.J. Stroud game. I need the Texas performance against Michigan's defense, right? Because in that game against Texas, the interior D-line is where the pressure came from, Keith. The edge guys could not win. Now, Grant, Troy Faltanu is a stud, and we've talked about him, the 6'3", 6'4", 315, 20-pound left tackle who, per Jim Nagy, his arm length is 34 and I think 3/4. So he passes the quote-unquote NFL kind of guidelines and threshold for arm length, but he's an outstanding tackle, right? The offensive line, the other young tackle on the right side, they pitched a shutout almost. It's going to be hard to do that against this defense. They showed Jalen Miller a bunch of simulated pressures. They did a lot of different things, Keith, that I expect them to do to Michael Penix, but this time it's not so much just to get pressure in his face. No, I'm going to force you right as a left-handed quarterback to where now you have to turn your shoulders, and get your shoulders parallel and squared up to a target, moving to your offhand, to your weak side. And that's not what we've seen yet. Everybody that's pressured him is typically moving him to his strong hand. So he can still throw very well and easily and effectively going to his left, but not moving to his right. And that's why I want to see that kind of take place, Keith. And, we'll see how it goes. But Roman Wilson, big game for him. This is a big game for him. Yeah, and I don't know, this is a statement game for him because we're going to get into the corner, Jabbar Muhammad. This is a statement game for Roman Wilson, Keith. And even for in my opinion, for Cornelius Johnson, 2 wide receivers that need to make plays for JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, I just think that they're gonna have to score points, right? Like this is
Mhm.
not. I don't think this is Ohio State's offense. I don't think this is definitely not Penn State's offense, right? And this is not Bama's offense, right? I think, like I said, the threshold is gonna be 27 to 32 points. So yeah, you're gonna have to score some points. But DP talking about scoring points, right? Somebody's gonna have to stop somebody, right? And we have one team that has one of the best defenses in all of college football, right? Michigan might be ranked number one in a lot of statistical categories. And then you have a Washington defense, right, where they kind of play a bend don't break, right? We're good enough, right, to help our team win and pull off wins at the end of the game. So DP, let's keep this thing going, man. Coming up next, man, we're going to talk about these defensive draft prospects to look at, to check out, to watch, because they will be key factors in this game.
At the start of the new year, every small business owner is asking themselves the same question. What's the next move? What's the one move I can make that'll take my business to the next level in 2024? LinkedIn Jobs knows your success all depends on the team that you surround yourself with. That's why LinkedIn Jobs has created the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Guys, LinkedIn Jobs is not just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. Okay. So post your job for free at LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL. That's LinkedIn.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Defensive prospects to watch in this game, Keith. And I think we got to start, for me, Bralen Trice, the edge rusher from Washington, who had an outstanding game, which we talked about earlier this week against Texas, right? When he was eight pressures, 2 sacks, forced fumble, 4 run stops, and listed at 6'4", 275, and going up against a guy who struggled for Michigan against Bama, Ladarius Henderson at left tackle. I expect Bralen Trice to be on his side a lot. Ladarius gave up, I think, 10 total pressures, between 10 total pressures and hurries combined. So he allowed 5 pressures, 5 hurries. I don't believe he allowed a sack, but he allowed some near ones, right? And I think some of that was, of course, Dallas Turner with his quickness, explosiveness, off the ball, bend around the edge. Bralen Trice is a different type of rusher, but he has more of a more robust rush package right now. You know what I mean? He knows how to win one-on-one without the speed and bend that we see from like a Dallas Turner.
Right, DP. So for the people that are listening right out every day, who are not as familiar with Briel Trice's game, he had a big game against Texas, right? Is that a consistent thing, or was that just kind of a blip on the radar, to where there's like an exponential jump in production? Or do you see those type of things or those type of skill sets and athletic traits from game to game, or did he just have a career game against Texas?
No, he's a consistent guy. You know what I mean? Coming into that game, he had, I believe, 49 pressures on the season, and 49 pressures, 6 sacks, and 15 QB hits. So you talk about a guy that lives in the backfield. That's Briel Trice. So while it was a big game for him, it wasn't just that one game. It wasn't a blip on the radar. This is a trend for him. You know what I mean? And now, granted, he's kind of one of those guys that we would kind of characterize like he gets more pressures and hurries than sacks, because sometimes quarterback gets the ball out of his hand at the last minute, stuff like that. So he doesn't have the gaudy sack numbers, but again, 15 QB hits, right? And it was coming off a game against Oregon where he didn't have a sack, but he had 6 hurries in that game. He hurried Bo Nix and made Bo Nix uncomfortable 6 times by himself in that game. So Briel Trice is going to be big for Washington in this game, Keith, to be able to get, to get to JJ McCarthy, but also setting the edge in the run game, right? I expect to see some more of the stuff that we saw from Michigan, the power concepts, the counters, all. Jim Harbaugh got in his bag a little bit because he did things that I hadn't seen on film the whole season. A lot of misdirection for Bama, messing with the eyes of their linebackers. That's going to be key, because if you're out there looking around at the pre-snap jet motion and all that, while your eyes are following the motion guy, the ball's going backside, and you're flat-footed in quicksand, baby, and you're not making any moves or making any headway or leeway towards the play of the ball, Keith. But Jabbar Muhammad, man, like he did give up a big play late in that game against Texas, but before that, he was basically locked down. Like, this is a guy that is going to be very interesting to me to see how the draft community and how the NFL, handles him and feels about him, right? Because he's not going to be a high, like when you're talking about like measurables type of guy, right? He's listed at 5'10", $183, and you wonder, okay, is he legitimately 5'10"? If he's 5'10", I feel great about it. I'm gonna hate he gets to the combine. It's 5'9". I'm like, oh, come on, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but DP, we gotta have a conversation, right? Because we've seen this though. We've seen this with Trent McDuffy, right? Everybody not Trent McDuffy. Because Trent McDuffy, I think across the board, he was under whatever the league average is, right? For everything, right? For height, for weight, for arm length, for hand, right? And it was like, okay, will this guy go in the first round, right? And the Kansas City Chiefs still drafted him. And I'm trying to think about what was the other coach? Kyler Gordon, right? Was it Kyler Gordon that same year?
Kyler Gordon was the other guy at Washington, Roger McCreary. It's been a couple of them.
Yeah, it's been a couple guys at Washington that they put out and they just have talented corners. And I'm honestly, DP, even with Jabbar Muhammad, right? I'm just at the point where I'm like, I'm just going to bet on the fact that he knows how to play football, right? Like those guys, they just simply know how to play football. And you even see it like with Arizona's draft, right? They drafted Keitrell Clark, and then they drafted, was it Garrett Williams?
Garrett Williams.
Yeah, Garrett Williams, right? Both guys that are quote unquote, I guess you would classify them as undersized, but they just flat out play football. But DP, let's transition to Michigan side of the football, right? And I'm gonna talk about their defensive backs, because y'all gonna have to play football, man. You're talking about Jalen Pope. You're talking about Rome Odunze, right? You're talking about was it Jalen McMillan, right? Y'all gonna have to play some football, man. And you're talking about Michael Penix, a guy that, listen, if the wide receiver is just a little bit open, he's gonna be able to get the ball in there, right? And not only that, we seen that big time play when he took that shot against the cornerback from Texas, Ryan Watts, to Rome Odunze to end the game. You have to worry about those type of throws, right? Like this is some high level stuff going on. So the prospects that I want to just quickly highlight is everybody in the defensive backfield, right? Mike Sandstrill, right? He had the big time situation with the run for Jason McClellan in the semi McClellan in the semi playoff game. Listen, bro, I don't know how much you're gonna have to worry about stopping the run, but you better get your back pedal and you better get them hips fluid, because they are going to throw the football, right? You better be working on your working how to leverage, right? The scooch technique. You better be working on that this week, heading into this game. And then you still, like you said, you talked about 2025 NFL draft prospect, who's just a true sophomore, Will Johnson. But then the other safety, DP Rod Moore, he's going to have to come up and make some big time tackles, man. He has a lot of buzz around his name also, but he's going to have to make some plays, man. And like you said, if they want to win this game, I think they're going to have to play well. You can't let this game get out of hand, and you can't let it get out of hand quickly, DP. So they have to show up in the first quarter, right? Like this can't be a second half type of game. Y'all have to be ready in the first quarter to get blitzed by this Washington offense. So I definitely want to highlight Michigan's defensive backfield.
No, 100%. And I think, them boys, they have something on their hands, and I've seen Will Johnson. I've seen Will Johnson, who's, like I said, CB1 for 2025, battle Marvin Harrison Jr. back-to-back years, right? That was kind of a up and down battle, like two heavyweights just throwing blows, man. And now he's getting a chance to I expect him to shadow Rome Odunze, and I think that they will have enough confidence in him. I could see them putting him on an island, and that's where you think about trying to stop Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan in terms of who goes into the slot. Mike Sandstrill he's got to be on his A game, right? He's got to be on this A game, because if not, man, it's going to be big. I think a guy that's not talked about, he's a senior defensive tackle, Chris Jenkins. Keith, this big boy, strong, great at the point of attack, 6'3", 305. Dylan Johnson averaged less than 3 yards per carry, if I'm not mistaken, against Texas, which we kind of figured. Tavondre Sweat's in the middle. Byron Murphy's in the middle. They weren't letting you run the ball. It's not happening. So I think I would not be surprised if Washington tries to get the run game and get some balance going. to get that play action, get some single high coverage, Chris Jenkins on that interior D-line is going to be pivotal. He's got to be able to help clog those lanes and make sure that they can't run the ball with Dylan Johnson if he's healthy. I know he got banged up late in that game, so if he's healthy, that's going to be big. And then one last one, Elijah Jackson. That's the guy who got the pass breakup on Adonai Mitchell to end the game, you know what I mean, in the end zone when they tried to go for the fade route again. And he great coverage the second time around, didn't give him any space, and got his hand on the football. He's going to be big, as I expect him to probably match up with Cornelius Johnson. They'll move Cornelius around in the slot, at the X, at the Z. They'll do different things, and maybe he might see some of the tight ends because they'll detach the tight ends from the line of scrimmage and put them in the slot and out wide at times as well. So it's going to be a great battle in terms of chess game between offense and defense.
No, I agree 100% with DP. Let's keep going, right, man? Listen, last week we predicted the semifinal games. We went 0-2, DP. We went 0-2, baby. We thought this was going to be a Bama versus Texas matchup. We got the complete opposite. We got Michigan versus Washington. So coming up next, man, we're going to get the opportunity to right our wrongs, man. We're going to pick the game, and then we're also going to tell you who are the X factor players, man. We ran through all the offensive prospects. We ran through the defensive prospects. But simply, who are the X factors to get the job done for either one of these teams to win the game? So coming up next, man, game picks, X factor.
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Guys, I know every single New Year's we talk about new year, new me, new year, new you. How about a new year, a better you? It doesn't have to be new because you're focusing on the things that you did wrong that you want to improve. How about focus on the things you did well that you want to improve and continue to do well? All right, maybe you finally organize one part of your space and you want to tackle another, where maybe you just like knocked off different tasks off your list and now you say, man, I want to do more of that. I want to be better at that. Well, therapy can help. All right, if you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. All right, it's entirely online and designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Having somebody that's objective and unbiased listen to you is great. So celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. When you look at this game, and there's a lot of talent all across the board for both sides, who would you deem to be the X factor in this game for both teams? For Michigan, who's your Michigan X factor? Who's your Washington X factor?
DP, that's tough. I thought you was gonna go first, man, and I was gonna have like 30 more seconds, right, to go through it, man. Oh, this is because this last week, right, we had two like styles, right? Like it was two fighters that both had like styles. This is polar opposite, right? Like Washington doesn't care to run the football, and Michigan only wants to run the football, right? Washington defense is just kind of holding on, and Michigan has a great defense, right? So you're talking about two polar opposite football teams. I'm gonna go with Michael Penix, and I know that's almost boring, right? But I believe this, DP, that if Washington is going to win this football game, he's going to have to, you know the old saying, where there's no defense for a great throw. That's going to be Michael Penix. Michael Penix, in order for Washington is going to win this game, he's going to have 5 throws where we're going to sit there and say that there's no defense for that throw. So that's why I'm going to go with Michael Penix. I think he will be the X factor in this game. Now, who I think is going to win the game? I'm going with the Washington Huskies, DP. I think that they will have enough to get the job done. I think this Michigan offense will be tested. I don't think they'll be able to live in their kind of somewhat cocoon, right? Their reserved offensive strategy. They haven't been pushed to the brink this entire time, DP. They jumped out on Ohio State quickly, right? Penn State was just running every single time. Michigan, Alabama, they battled back some, made some plays, but I don't think Alabama ever threatened them, right, to have to pull out of that, hey, we have to run the football. I think Washington, they will pull out. They will start fast. They will start quick. They're going to throw the football. They're going to score some points, and I think they're going to push Michigan to the brink, and I think they're going to win a close one.
It's crazy because when I look at these two teams, I think for Washington, remember when we talked about the Texas game last week, I said Texas's offensive line, keeping Quinn Ewers protected, right?
Yep.
What didn't they do? Quinn Ewers protected, right? And it ultimately lost them the game. Quinn was never able to get into rhythm and feel comfortable. It's the same thing for Washington, right? Now, I have total faith in Troy Faltanu, and then at left tackle, and then right tackle Roger Rosengarten, like the 6'6", 300-pound good mover over there. Like you can put those guys on the island, but it's the it's the guards. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody else, like they have to be a cohesive unit in this game in order for Michael Penix to feel good. Like I watched, we watched the interior defensive line get pressure with T'Vondre Sweat and with Byron Murphy. And Michigan's no slouches on the interior defensive line. You know what I mean? With Chris Jenkins, Mason Graham, who I'm telling you now, for 2025 guys, he might be next year's Braden Fisk with just a little bit more pub and more like eyes on him because people know who he is. He's just a sophomore. But then Kenneth Grant, the other guy, the other interior defensive lineman, 6'3", 340. You know what I mean? A guy that can push the pocket. He's athletic. That's a guy who I can't remember who they played. It might have been Penn State, where you got the big D tackle chasing the running back down like 20 yards downfield. Like, this is a big athletic boy. So I think that offensive line for Washington is the X factor for me. For Michigan, oh man, I'm gonna go Colston Loveland, the sophomore right tackle, the sophomore tight end. I think this passing game has to get going, and Alabama did a good job with Caleb Downs and those safeties for the most part, being able to take away Colston Loveland, and because that was a guy who's like been a good part of this offense for Michigan, and big, he's athletic, can really work the seams. And like I said, he will detach from the line of scrimmage. He can run block well. You got to be able to run block in this offense, right? 6'5", 245. And this was a guy I remember watching him in the Big Ten championship last year, where when they played, I think Iowa, and I was like, or Purdue. I think it was Purdue, and like just making plays. I'm like, yo, like this young man, 585 yards receiving on the season, 4 touchdowns, 14 yards per. I truly believe he is the X factor for this offense. Yes, Roman Wilson, Cornelius Johnson. They got the slot receiver, young slot receiver in Tyler Moore, who was making plays against Bama at times, but getting the big tight end going, right? That's going to be pivotal, Keith. That's going to be pivotal. And I'll say this, to pick this game, I am picking Washington as well. And the reason why, I look at Michigan very similar to how I look at the San Francisco 49ers, where you got a dominant run game, right? You control the line of scrimmage on both sides, dominant defense. But the moment another team puts up points on you, your offense feels like they feel claustrophobic. Because like you said, you know what I mean? They play inside there. They play so constricted, and it's all based off of the run. That when I score 21 on you, now your quarterback feels that pressure of having to go score for score, and now it's a real heavyweight fight. It's a heavyweight fight in the 10th and 11th round, where it's no more trying to feel each other out. I'm throwing haymakers. Can you throw one back? And like San Francisco's lost all 4 of those games this year when they've had to deal with taking haymakers. Michigan's offense, I don't know if it's set up for haymakers, Keith. They want to box, stay out. You know what I mean? They want to box and control the pace. I don't think they have enough haymakers in them. I think Washington does. So I'm going to take them Huskies to knock off the Wolverines, even though we both picked the Wolverines to win the national championship. I didn't think I would be.
DP, I thought about that, man. We definitely did. So it's like we're almost there, DP. We almost to the point. When people go back and, if Michigan wins, we're going to act like this didn't happen, right? We're going to go back and we're going to clip up the old episode when we predicted Michigan to win the national championship way back in August. But, if we did, if Washington wins, we're going to use these clips right here, DP.
I'm going to Men in Black this thing so quick, and, DP, I don't recall any of this.
We put ourselves in a win-win situation. That's what happened, DP. We put ourselves in a win-win. We leveraged ourselves, baby. We leveraged ourselves. But, man, that wraps up another fun episode of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, man. I told you at the top of the show, man, If you haven't hit the like button, go hit that like button. If you haven't commented yet, man, go ahead and drop a comment. If you're not subscribed to the fastest growing YouTube channel that is out there, go ahead and subscribe to the Locked On NFL Draft YouTube channel. So that way you can know when all our content drop, man. You can know every time our shows premieres on YouTube, man. You can hop in the live chat, be able to talk, man, and get this thing going, get us flowing, man, because this is the best draft content there is out there in the draft space, man. So we want to say thank you for tapping in. Shout out to our everydayers. Listen, man, my name is Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code, man. That is Damian Parsons to my left, man, my co-host. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we always like to say, man, y'all talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available, especially on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, guys. Go subscribe, hit the automatic downloads, talk to us, all right? Leave a 5-star review and a comment so we can hear any thoughts that you have, any ideas, all that stuff, man. We're open and we're here for you guys because you guys are the reason why we can even be able to do this thing. So do that for the Apple Podcast, Spotify, any other audio podcast forms. All right. But listen, it is Friday. Happy Friday, man. Get ready for some football in the NFL. See where the NFL draft order lands. And of course, we get the national championship game Monday night. So listen to this, get ready for it. But as always, come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.